Where did that go? Where did it disappear to? What's going on? Well, while I was pondering the situation, my husband received a demotion at work because he seemed to be making more mistakes. He had never been particularly dedicated to his job, so the demotion didn't come as much of a surprise to him. However, his memory lapses became increasingly frequent, prompting us to visit the hospital for a checkup. Music. I initially thought it might be depression, but the diagnosis turned out to be early onset Alzheimer's. In simple terms, he was dealing with dementia. I had heard that even young individuals could develop the condition, but I was still shocked to learn my husband had it. My name is Katie Smith. 5 years have passed since then. I'm now 50 years old and my husband is 54. We didn't have children, so I continued working. My parents have passed away, but my husband's parents are still alive and well. They live in the countryside, not far from us. His parents are very kind, and when my husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, they offered to take him in and suggested I consider divorce. Music. However, my husband, who had always disliked living in the country, firmly opposed the idea. I chose not to pursue divorce solely because of his illness. We've been married for nearly 20 years, united by love, and not just by the vows of sickness and health. It didn't seem right to abandon him simply because he had fallen ill. Though my husband's memory lapses have increased, he can still lead a relatively normal life. Perhaps the medication he takes to manage the disease is working. It's not too bad because he can still function in many aspects of daily life, and he recognizes me. Although he occasionally doesn't respond to me, when he does, he behaves much like any other person. However, when I ask him specific questions, he often says he doesn't remember or isn't sure. His mistakes at work became more frequent, and he would sometimes become emotional when he struggled with paperwork. He once told me, "I'm thinking of leaving the company. Would you support me if I quit?" Unable to refuse my worried husband, I supported his decision, and he eventually left the company. He now spends most of his time at home, but he doesn't exhibit any problematic behavior while he's there. Sometimes he leaves things out or makes a mess in the kitchen. But since he isn't causing harm to others, it's within an acceptable range of behavior. My husband has been home ever since he left his job. I spoke with the doctor about arranging for someone to watch over him while I'm at work. The doctor reassured me that he still has the ability to recognize danger, so there's no immediate need for extra care. He mentioned that we would revisit the situation as the disease progresses. For now, the doctor advised me to remind my husband to lock the door when he goes out and to avoid going out alone. I was somewhat worried about whether he would be okay with these instructions, but he repeatedly insisted that he was fine being on his own and sometimes grew frustrated when I pressed the matter. "Stop nagging. I'm sick. You're just making me more confused with all this unnecessary talk. Show me some compassion." In the end, I had to give him some space because I couldn't manage his outbursts. 5 years before my husband was diagnosed at 40, I had been promoted to section manager. My salary increased, so even though my husband left his job, we didn't face any immediate financial strain. Since we don't have children, we had managed to save a good amount over the years, providing us with a safety net when needed. Our savings remain untouched, and I'm grateful to still be working. I hope life will continue to be as normal as possible. However, there's one issue that's been troubling me lately. Items around the house often go missing. The missing items include my beloved designer bags, recently purchased shoes and clothes, and other costly possessions. I had saved up to treat myself to these items as rewards. I've searched everywhere, thinking I might have misplaced them, but I can't seem to find them. When I asked my husband about it, he could only say, "I don't know." I inquired further, "Did you remember taking them anywhere?" His response remained the same, "No, I don't remember." My husband's responses are becoming increasingly repetitive. I wonder if his illness has advanced to the point where he doesn't even recall taking the missing items out of the house. When I return from work and ask about his day, his frequent reply is, "I can't remember." The doctor explained that the progression of the disease can vary, sometimes slow and other times rapid. Yet I couldn't shake the worry that it might be accelerating. If this were the case, leaving him alone while I'm at work would become a concern. The thought of him wandering off alone is unsettling. I wouldn't be able to manage his care on my own if he were to stray. My anxiety about my husband's well-being led me to install surveillance cameras in the house without informing him. What if he starts wandering and causing trouble for others? I'd be devastated if that were to occur. If such a situation arose, I'd have to confront it head-on. A week later, while my husband slept, I nervously reviewed the footage captured by the camera. What I witnessed was beyond anything I had anticipated, leaving me utterly astonished. Unbeknownst to me, my husband was bringing another woman into our home. For the past 5 years, I hadn't been able to engage in meaningful conversation with him. His responses to my questions were always vague, yet in the video he conversed with ease, free of any barriers. It was difficult to reconcile this with his dementia diagnosis. Furthermore, I was taken aback when I recognized the woman accompanying him. She was none other than the doctor who had diagnosed my husband with dementia. The very hospital where we had sought medical advice was affiliated with his former workplace. Was this some kind of twisted joke between my husband and the female doctor? Or could the dementia diagnosis be entirely fabricated? Are you sure she hasn't discovered the truth? Not in the slightest. Dementia is a handy excuse. I don't have to work, and I can easily claim I don't remember when it suits me. What a terrible man you are. Your wife is out working while you stay at home and bring your mistress here. You were the one who suggested it. When I told you I was tired of my job and wanted to leave, you said it was a good idea. I didn't think it would work so smoothly. The woman crossed her legs, laughing with my husband as they spoke. She's so full of herself. I'm not sure if she got promoted to section chief or something, but her salary keeps going up. She's definitely earning more than me and moving ahead. She probably thinks she's better than me, but thanks to her, we can enjoy moments like this. She's basically our ATM, so she needs to keep working hard. Didn't you say she's just your housekeeper now? Yep, she's both my housekeeper and ATM. I felt my mind go blank as the words on the screen echoed in my head. Oh, and Hannah, don't take too many things out of the house because my wife has noticed items missing. She suggested you take things out and just pretend they're gone. Well, I can always say I forgot due to my condition. Exactly. This illness is the perfect cover. Now I can coast through life without having to work anymore. So that's the reality of it. What have I been doing all this time, silently supporting him? For 5 years, I poured my energy into working tirelessly and managing the household, unaware of the truth. I felt foolish, like all my strength had been sapped from my body. Suddenly, uncontrollable laughter erupted from within me. I wondered if I was losing my mind. That's how overwhelmed I was, anger, sadness, frustration, and despair all mingling together. And the despair didn't stop there. When I checked my bank account, I found it drained to zero. Every penny I'd saved since our marriage had vanished. I felt utterly adrift. It felt like the world had ended. As the morning light seeped in, I found myself numb. My husband greeted the day with a carefree expression, and seeing him stirred a rage within my hollowed soul. Where's breakfast? I wanted to grab him by the collar and unleash every ounce of fury, but I managed to hold myself back. My husband still had no clue that I knew the truth. I struggled with the urge to confront him and demand an apology on the spot, but I was unsure of how to proceed. Even if I lashed out at him, I knew he would simply smile and say, "You found out, didn't you? What are your plans for today? What's going on? You've never asked me that before. I'm just curious about what you do at home all day. I wish I could work like you, but with my condition, I just end up causing trouble for others. I'm envious of your ability to work." I couldn't believe how brazen his words were. Given the evidence of his infidelity, I knew I could use it as grounds for seeking alimony and a divorce. But reflecting on the last 5 years brought me to tears. People who act so shamelessly often try to downplay their actions with excuses and implausible explanations. A few days passed as I contemplated my next steps. Just seeing my husband made me feel sick, but I held my composure. The camera remained in place. Unaware that I knew the truth, my husband continued bringing the doctor into our home while I was away. "Hey, did anyone come by today? I thought I smelled someone else." He responded, "Well, someone might have come by, but I don't really remember. Maybe it was a salesperson." "So how are you feeling? You seem to be doing better lately. Is the treatment helping?" "I don't think so. I feel like I've been getting more forgetful. The doctor told me the disease can be slowed down, but it can't be cured." "That's right. That doctor was quite attractive, wasn't she?" "Was she?" I can't seem to recall her face. I was almost impressed by how convincingly he kept up his act for so long. I couldn't just sit idly by, so I decided to visit my in-laws with a recorded video, without telling my husband. They have always been kind and thoughtful toward me. but they are my husband's parents, so I worried they might take his side. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm sorry for reaching out unexpectedly, but I have something important to discuss with you. What's wrong? You look so worn out. What happened? Come on in. Are you hungry? I'll fix you something warm to eat. My mother-in-law's words almost brought me to tears. It was a relief to realize I had nothing to worry about. When my in-laws saw the video of my husband's affair with the female doctor, they immediately knelt down and apologized. Our foolish son. I'm so sorry, Katie. I truly apologize. Rather than blaming me, they cried and held my hands, causing me to cry as well. It felt as though all the tension I'd been holding onto melted away in that moment. While my anger at my husband remained, I was deeply moved to know I had their support. Something else that made me happy was a surprise offer for a promotion to a department head position. It was gratifying to know my hard work was being recognized. I felt reassured that I had a place where my efforts were valued. Hey Katie, are you listening to me? Huh? Oh sorry, I got lost in my thoughts for a moment. I had been contemplating how to best punish my husband and had gotten caught up in my thoughts. It's not funny if you both end up with dementia. His words sparked an idea in my mind. Would you take care of me if I did end up with dementia? Forget it. I've got enough on my plate without taking care of you too. My husband looked at me in shock at my response. Since then, I've been trying to echo more of his previous words each day to make the scenario seem more convincing. Hey, what was I doing just now? I've been making so many mistakes at work lately. I seem to be forgetting things. I forgot how to use the washing machine and how to cook rice. My husband grew increasingly anxious. You're still working, but I'm grateful you're here. One day, I came home from work to find my husband gone. He left behind completed divorce papers and a note. I don't want to burden you any further, so I've decided to divorce you. Please don't try to find me, Ken. I knew he left because he believed I might have dementia. Moreover, I knew exactly where he had gone. My husband had rented an apartment to continue his relationship with the female doctor, as revealed in the hidden video. He told her, I'm getting a divorce. I can't be bothered taking care of her if she ends up with dementia. I've moved my savings to another account so I won't need to worry about my finances for a while, he said, laughing. He also provided her with his new apartment's location. I learned where she lived from their conversation, so I headed to her neighborhood. The female doctor was married and lived in a suburban home with her family. I immediately filed the divorce papers and sent an invoice for alimony and property division to my husband's newly rented apartment. Naturally, I also sent the female doctor a bill for alimony via certified mail. It seemed my husband received it, as he called me right away. What on earth is this, alimony? Yes, it's for your infidelity. What? Oh right, I sent it to that lady doctor as well. I imagine her husband has learned about it by now, and they must be facing difficulties. Along with the invoice I sent to the female doctor, I also forwarded the hidden camera footage to my husband. Her husband had the right to know what had happened. You sneaky, how did you find out? To be honest, I was surprised too. I couldn't believe it was all a lie. I thought you were losing your mind. You know I was just imitating you. You're so easy to fool, aren't you? My husband chose to ignore his actions and began shouting at me. He accused me, you think I'm being dishonest? You have the nerve to be angry after pretending to have dementia for 5 years and living off my income. You even brought another woman into the house. Do you think that's acceptable? It seemed my husband never imagined that I knew everything. Then he stammered, but what do you mean by property division? I don't own anything. We have your savings. Oh, I already spent it all, not a penny left. I was amazed he had come this far and was still lying. I told him I had planted a camera in her house and that I had heard every word he told the female doctor. I informed him I had the footage as evidence. I have irrefutable proof. When I informed him that his parents were aware of the situation and were furious, he erupted into another fit of yelling, demanding, "How dare you involve them in this?" He seemed oblivious to the fact that he had no right to shout at me now. Thankfully, his incessant ranting spared me the expense of hiring a private investigator. Upon hearing this, my husband fell silent for a moment, seemingly at a loss for words, before abruptly ending the call. The following month, I received another unexpected call. What's going on? What do you mean? I went to the apartment and they said it had already been canceled. Which apartment? The one we used to live in, obviously. I couldn't help but think to myself that he was the one who initiated the divorce proceedings, so I hadn't anticipated his return. When I told him that I had canceled the lease immediately after he left, he became angry and demanded to know why I hadn't informed him of my actions. I explained that, as he was unemployed, he could no longer be the tenant on the apartment lease. So when he quit his job, I changed the lease to my name. This gave me control over when to terminate the lease and decide where to move next. I ended up purchasing a condo, which I now call home. You bought it? Yes, using the alimony from you and your mistress, along with the savings I recovered. It's a small place, but it's my own haven. Really? Yes, so you won't be coming over. He seemed surprised by my response. You have a girlfriend, don't you? I already broke up with her. Her husband found out she was cheating and divorced her. She's been blamed at work for making a diagnostic error and is being sued by a patient. Both her husband and you are suing her for alimony, leaving her in significant debt. Really? Well, I decided I want to start over with you. That way, the alimony will be canceled and I can get the money back. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Did he really think I would take him back? He was suggesting that we reconcile, implying that the alimony being pursued by her husband could be returned to me. I was almost tempted to ask him if he had lost his mind. You've got to be kidding. Why would I pay you anything? We're divorced. I never want to see you again. There's no chance I'm taking you back. With that, I hung up the phone and blocked all incoming calls from him. Apparently, my ex-husband then went to visit his parents. Little did he know that they had sold their house and moved into a retirement community. They told me he was shocked when he arrived at their house and saw it was up for sale, prompting him to reach out to them. With a lawyer handling the collection of property division and alimony payments, my ex-husband was left with little money in his pocket. Unable to secure a new job and unable to pay his rent, he was evicted from his apartment and had nowhere to go. He must have turned to his parents for help. Anticipating this, they had moved out, knowing that if he returned, they might struggle to remove him again. They told me they would have felt sorry for me if he had tried to move back in with them. I heard he now works as a live-in employee at a factory, but he's too lazy to work much, resulting in daily scoldings and even beatings from younger employees. He has reached out to his parents several times for assistance, but they have consistently refused him. Months have passed since the divorce, and I continue to stay in touch with his parents. They remain concerned for my well-being and have become like my own parents. I plan to maintain a close relationship with them, and if they ever need assistance, I'll be there for them. I've recently been promoted to department manager and my salary has gone up. I'm committed to working hard and am thoroughly enjoying my peaceful life on my own.